Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, we talk all the time about the digital world, how loud and crowded and difficult and ever-changing it is. So you need some professionals like Drago and his team at Oak City Tech to get your message out to your current customers, but more importantly, your future customers. So when you need a professional, when you got your plan ready to go, please go to oakcitytech.com. Tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning with Triangle BNI. Each week on the show here, we bring you local small business success stories from Triangle BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it's the world's largest networking organization, Business Networking International. Our little slice of heaven here in Central North Carolina is the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, about 30 chapters and almost 530 members get together. Our only goal is to help each other grow their businesses. And our small business success story today is Wes Harper with Lightwire Inc. Wes is in RD37, the morning show. They meet Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. at Chewy's Restaurant in North Hills. Wes, good to have you today.
Hey, buddy. Thank you. It's nice to be back.
Well, it's fitting you're back today. This is episode number 150, and I'd like to thank everybody that has supported this show from the first show we had. We appreciate it very much. And it was just when I was looking at the show the other day, right before I emailed you, it's like, oh my, this could be episode 150. Got to have Wes back on. If you remember the show, Wes was on, we're probably going back at least a year and a half. But not only does Wes own Lightwire Inc., they are an IT company, but he is also a survivalist on the hit show Naked and Afraid, which we'll get to in just a minute. So Wes, technology, something was just invented 20 seconds ago. In another minute, something will be invented and changed. What are some things we can keep in mind when it comes to let's start with the protection of everything we have on anything in the digital world?
Sure. Well, let me first say congratulations on 150 episodes. I think you're finally starting to know what you're doing now. It's really coming along.
Appreciate it.
IT, protection, security. I think 2 years ago, I said security was the hottest topic out there, and it continues to be the thing that people are talking about, thing people are scared of the most, and the thing that people are spending money on, to be perfectly honest, protecting their stuff. And it's diligence. So much of it is diligence and checking that email to make sure it's not junk, somebody spoofing you, fishing for information. It's a user-based world. And users are creating most of the problems by clicking on the wrong thing.
I'm assuming that's one of the 2 or 3 things that we do. They're basically self-inflicted. What are a couple other things we do or don't do to protect ourselves as best as we can?
I think even 2 years ago I mentioned this, but having a decent firewall is so important. It really is. And then having somebody manage that firewall who watches it, monitors it, keeps it up to date, does all the security patching. That helps just an incredible amount. Keep out the 99% of bad guys. I think number one is probably that. And number two is having a decent email platform. Between those two, you can ward off a lot of problems, really, just with those two things. We suggest that Mike probably 3 times a day to different clients. They do that.
And the assumption we make is these hackers want big companies with billions of dollars, and man, they're just looking for 10 Bitcoins here and there. So they'll go for anybody, right? Big or small.
Yeah. And this is a talk I give routinely, is the hackers don't care what size your business is. They don't even know the name of your business. More to the point, they have an IP address. They just don't care. They're not singling you out. It's not a competitor trying to get to you. They're just randomly looking for people where they can steal information, and then they broker it out to somebody on the dark web for dollars. You know, they could take every bit of information you have and sell it for $5
Wow.
because they don't care. You know, they'll never know your name, they'll never know your company or what you do or your insider secrets. They're just taking your information because they can get $5 for it on the dark web. And then from there, somebody else will broker it right back out again to pay, depending on how much information they have stolen from you. And they may get $30 for it. You know, for your life's work has just turned over for $35. It's incredibly scary. So people who say, "Oh, I'm too small for anybody to hack," that is such a misnomer.
And
They don't care.
it's the questions and the emails that we get sometimes that we stop for a second and ask ourselves, well, that's odd. I've never gotten that before. And then we just answer their question. My favorite is oh, I got a phone call from the IRS the other day. No, the IRS does not call people. So when we get something, hey, so and so wants to update your fill in the blank,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
huge red flag.
It- Absolutely. If you even feel for a second that something's out of whack, just delete it. You know, if it's not, they'll email you again,
Mhm.
or they'll call you, or they'll get in touch with you. You know, delete, delete, delete. The rest of it will work out. You're not missing out on a huge opportunity. You're not missing out on something. Just delete that junk. You know, they'll find another way to contact you if it's for real.
we we do know, and most of our computers at work, personal or professional computers, have some sort of virus scanner on there, virus protection. We give almost no thought to our phone being protected, and we're on the run. Oh, let me check my bank account real quick from my phone. We do things, we don't even think about protection on our phone, do we?
No, we really don't. We really don't. You know, everybody thinks that that's the panacea for escaping all the trouble. Oh, I'll just check from my phone. And
Mhm.
really, that's you watch over the next 2 years of what's coming down for phones. You know, they're talking about, you know, you can get text now. You're getting random texts just like you do spam, like crazy. That's going to be huge as people go away from laptops and PCs to more cell phone based. It's just another avenue for bad guys to steal your information and cause you havoc.
I wish I could tell people how many times my wife and I have won contests through a text on our phone.
Still waiting for that check to come in though.
Yeah, yeah. But we get that. We laugh who gets the most each week. I think my wife got two last week. I didn't get any, but 2 weeks before, I got like three times, three contests I'd won. I just need to click here to, to get collect my winnings or whatever it was. It's like, no, don't
Right.
people don't do that.
Con- Congratulations on your extreme success with winning. Wow.
I've never won so much of my life through text since I got texting. Yeah. The other
Yes.
thing I like what you guys do, and you alluded to it earlier, is the monitoring of it. Because one of the things I love that when a lot of people say, "Oh, my uncle Billy he sets up my computer." I know I know he cuts grass for a living, but he really loves computers. He's been playing with them forever. And no, yeah, Uncle Billy probably could set up your computer, but Uncle Billy's not going to get that red flag note at 2 a.m. in the morning like you guys do when somebody's hacking your computer.
That's absolutely correct. You know, with our firewalls, we monitor every single piece of information that gets transferred in or out. I mean, every single one and zero that comes through gets analyzed. And so we can really strip out a lot of the junk.
And what I guess the question to ask people is, what are you willing to lose for $40, $80, $100 a month, right?
It really is. And there's it's not an expensive solution really to have somebody put in a firewall and monitor it and keep it updated. It's really not. You know, there's $120 a month,
Yeah.
and that could save your entire life's work. I've been in business for 25 years now, and so many people who are small businesses. They're I don't want to say mom and pop, but just small businesses. Their mortgage is wrapped up in their
Mhm.
business. Every car they drive is wrapped up. You know, their college savings is wrapped up. for 120 to 150 bucks a month to take that worry away. I can't believe more people are resistant to spending just a little bit of money to safeguard what they have.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to what you said earlier. This last, you know what? There, nobody's interested in what I got.
That's absolutely true. If they understood actually how it worked,
Yeah.
I think they would be a little more fearful.
I had no idea you could broker that for a sum of $5, but if I guess if you do 100 of those, and they're doing volume business, right? The hackers.
Oh, sure. Absolute volume. They're port scanning. They're just throwing emails out to thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people. And it might be a 17-year-old kid looking to buy beer money
Yep.
for the weekend. I mean, really, at the end of the day. And
Wow.
so yeah, it's dangerous.
All right. So we in the Triangle know Wes as a killer small business owner and a BNI member and a helper. But the world knows you as one of the all stars on Naked and Afraid. And the first time you were on the show, you had just gotten back from Brazil, and it was just
Mhm.
fascinating the things people will do to entertain themselves. So as the story goes, you had been watching the show and you had been screaming at the TV, why did they do this? Why did they build it that way? And your
Mhm.
wife said, fine, I'm
Yeah,
going to sign you up for the show. And here we are today. And looking back on that, I'm
Mhm.
assuming you're glad she did it.
I'm 100% glad she did it. She's not so sure anymore. So there is a certain amount of regret if you talk to her about it at this point. Yeah.
Now we know, like I said, first time you're on the show, it was from Brazil. It was after Brazil, and
Mhm.
we're going to get to the next trip was South Africa and then Ecuador.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
we're going to get to that in a second. I pulled up a podcast you were on. I think it was right after Brazil. Um, I forget the name of the show, but anyways, we're you and the host, were talking about the prep, and you had mentioned that it took you about a year to be on the show after the first time you sent in the information, and you get like a week or 2 weeks notice, hey, be ready to fly out, here's your ticket. But when you get a sense after Brazil, obviously you got a sense you were going to be on another show because you really wanted to. And so as conversations came up about South Africa, whether you knew it was going to be South Africa or not, but you sense you were getting closer, what kind of preparation physically can you do knowing you're going to go on this show?
Two things are huge. One is take off your shoes. Your feet. You got to toughen your feet. You're barefoot the whole time. No matter where you go, you're stepping on things, and it's painful. So before South Africa, I walked around barefoot for 6 months, just on the thought that I might actually get the call to go. And so that's huge. And then, of course, putting on a little extra weight doesn't hurt, because no matter how successful you are, you're going to starve to death. I mean, you really are. And so beefing up a little bit, that doesn't hurt.
Do you sleep outside in a tent in your backyard?
Not anymore. I used to a little bit, but I grew up outside camping, hunting, fishing, and so I am very comfortable sleeping outside. That doesn't bother me one bit. And so for me, that wasn't really necessary for prep. More, going on YouTube, buying 15 different machetes to see which one you like. 4 different fire starters, and all the stuff that you do. You try stuff out just to make sure that you really know how to use it. You're good with it. When you're starving and your brain's not working, it's okay, because you've already practiced 1,000 times. It's kind of like driving. It becomes automated at that point.
And you get to bring one thing with you.
Yeah, yeah. That's how it works for the 21-day challenges. You get to bring one thing, and then the production supplies you with one other thing that they think may be helpful. But Africa was a group event. And so you got to bring a knife or machete, and then they supplied you with something else that they thought would be helpful, or went to your skill set.
Now you went and hang on a sec. It was let me look at my notes here. I want to say, hang on a sec, let me get the right name. Suzanne. That was in uh that was in Ecuador, right?
Yeah, it sure was. That was the
Okay.
all-star challenge I
Yep.
did with her.
And you brought rope
Mhm.
or a twine.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
did you pick that?
You can, because cordage is so
Cordage. Yeah.
important when you're out there, and you can make cordage. I can make cordage all day long, but it takes hours and hours and hours to make. And so when you're in an environment where you need to slap up a shelter because it's 50 degrees and raining and you're going to die, that really helps things out. You don't have to spend all that time. You can just cut off strips of cordage and start lashing things together. That was my thought behind it, as well as making some traps for food.
Now, when you were in Brazil, it was just you and I forget your partner's name.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Mhm.
Okay. And that was wonderful. So it was the two of you. South Africa, couple things here. This was the all-star. This was Naked and Afraid XL, which is 40, it was 40 days, but it was
Mhm.
all-stars. And from what I gather, it was interesting because you could vote somebody kind of off the island if you
Yeah.
wanted to, right? And
Yeah.
did you were you drawn to that model? And what made you want to, first of all, were you drawn to that model of survivalism?
Well, one, I didn't get a choice in it. I
Okay.
said yes, and so I got in there. But yes, I really like that because it appealed to my business nature as well, and not carrying around dead weight that was dragging you down. And so, yeah, I thought that was a really good concept. And I was the first person in Naked and Afraid history to ever banish somebody from the tribe. Yeah, that was me, right? Trivia question.
Nice.
But owning a business and having employees, and for 25 years, you've let some people go. You've hired a lot of people, you've let a lot of people go, and when somebody's not performing, it felt very natural for me to call it out and make a change.
Now I'm going to jump ahead to Ecuador only because talking about the value of a partner, and then I'm going to come back to South Africa. But when I
Sure.
was watching the clip from Ecuador, you and Suzanne is on every show. You have no idea who your partner is until you see them.
That's
And the
correct.
look of joy on both of your faces when you saw each other because you were aware of each other. And my sense is you knew you got somebody that moved at the same pace you did and thought the way you did.
Yeah, and Suzanne, she can handle herself. I knew she wasn't, somebody that I would prefer not to be with, who was just sponging off me the whole time. She's very educated. She knows what she's doing in survival. So seeing that you got a partner that's worth their salt is very relieving. And Suzanne and I, we already knew each other. So that was great. That was comforting to see.
How long does it take you, or did it take you to know, especially in the South Africa 40 days, to size somebody up and realize, yeah, this not somebody I want on my team?
About 30 seconds.
And what triggers that?
The way they talk to you, the way they talk to other people, that's really first and foremost. Like, you get a sense about people very quickly by having a 30-second conversation. And really bringing it back to business, it's the same way when you're doing sales or meet a client or customer or prospective person. You have to evaluate people very, very quickly. And so maybe that's a skill that I've honed over the last few years. But yeah, 30 seconds and you know what's going on unless they change your mind.
How many of the all-stars did you know or were familiar with?
Uh, from watching all the episodes, I knew every, but any kind of relationship with, I didn't have one. I didn't have one out of everybody there, other than maybe somebody that I'd met at a fundraising event, and spent an hour with. I didn't have any deep personal connections, but I knew half a dozen or so of them from being at the same events.
Okay. We are here with Wes Harper, owner of Lightwire Inc. They're an IT company that basically can save you a lot of money, keep you safe. So you want to check him out. We'll be putting his phone number above the screen there. You can give them a call. Wes is also in RD37, the BNI chapter called The Morning Show meets Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. at Chewy's restaurant in North Hills. If you live in the Triangle, you'll know where that is. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech, talking about things you can control, folks. You can't control Facebook or Google or YouTube. If they want to cut you off, they will cut you off. But you can control things like your email list, opportunities like that to stay in touch with your current clients and meet your future clients. So go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. All right, Wes. So Brazil brought its challenges weather-wise. Climate was a little cooler than South Africa.
A
If I
little
wrote
bit.
my notes down correctly, the air temperature at some point in time was about 120 degrees. But what I never thought about was when you mentioned that the surface temperature about 146 degrees. So how do you know where to walk? It sounds kind of goofy, but how do you know where to walk and how to walk when it's that hot on the ground?
I mean, it's tough. It is tough. Africa, it's full of thorns. There's not a safe space for you to put your foot. But we found if you were in a game trail of some kind, where the impalas would have a trail to go to the water, you walked in the game trails because they had picked up most of the thorns already, and it's a little safer there. But escaping the heat, there's nothing you can do except find any amount of shade possible and try to stick to that. Man, that was hot on the feet.
Now,
Unbelievably hot.
yeah, you would build tents or coverings to sleep in at night. Can you build anything that resembles footwear?
Yeah, actually, you can. They have baobab trees in South Africa, the ones that elephants rip the bark off, that regrows bark. We made my partner Gwen Grimes. She's fantastic. We made her a pair of shoes out of bark, and then the person that I banished, he brought duct tape, and so we took his duct tape and we made some duct tape shoes. So that was, yeah, I know, right? It was incredibly helpful though in those very hottest of days.
Okay, let me back up. Why did he bring duct tape, and was that a good thing to bring?
He brought duct tape because he had brought that in his first challenge. In fact, he is widely known in the community as Duct Tape Boy because that's his go-to survival item. Yeah, I know, but it was incredibly helpful. We made shoes, we made little ground covers, blankets. Uh, Gwen made a pillow out of it. I mean, it was incredibly helpful.
So you did not even let him take his duct tape home when you banished him?
Oh hell no! I took that from myself. No, once you're out, baby.
Now, the first day you were on location in South Africa, were you with anybody at that point?
Yeah, immediately I synced up with Gwen.
Okay.
She and I were put in the same truck together, had conversations before we ever took our clothes off.
When did you get to the point where you could start thinking of or actually banishing somebody?
You can start immediately. Um, Josh joined our group maybe 6 hours after we had already started, already got our stuff together. And so, I knew really in the first minute that it was not going to go well. But it took 3 days of giving him opportunities
Yeah.
to prove himself before we just couldn't take it anymore and knew that he had to go.
And so you and Gwen just tell whoever, hey, Josh is out of here.
Well, we know you actually bring the person in and say, "Hey, buddy, you're out of here. We're going to banish you. Sorry, it's a tough deal, but you're gone." And it doesn't mean they have to leave the show. It just means they can't be with us.
Yeah. Okay. And you can't trade them for somebody on another team.
No, 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 doesn't quite work like that. They just can't be a member of your.
Yep. You also talked about getting poisoned by aloe.
Ooh, I got sick. Yeah, I got really sick. We stumbled upon some really concentrated aloe, and it was awful. Yeah, double vision, nauseous, lost body function. Really, it was hard to move, and so I forced myself to throw up everything I possibly could, and that brought me around pretty quickly to being better. But yeah, that was a miserable experience. Absolutely miserable.
And in life in general, the lack of water hurts too, right?
Yeah, it's not real helpful. Not real helpful. We had a little spring, but the first few days we were drinking out of a mud puddle, that elephants had defecated in, any other animal that had decided to take a bath in it. It was really disgusting.
Had you found other aloe before and used it?
Uh, not in Africa, but it's kind of known within survivalists that you can eat aloe, and it's okay. But this was a strain of it that you didn't want to put in your mouth. That's for sure. It was awful. Like, it was awful.
Okay. No, I trust if you tell me, because I
And
wouldn't know the difference. I wouldn't have done research on, oh, I can eat aloe, but I know you
I
did.
wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Okay. Give us your best elephant story.
They were frightening. At one point when I was hunting, and a group of elephants came by, and I was probably 20 feet from a couple of them. And I stayed very still and let them do their thing. But when they turn and look at you, and they have, tusks, and
Mhm.
start flapping their ears, that's a very real moment. And you really think, wow, I could actually die here. This guy, if he was mad at me, he could really just come over and stomp me, and there wouldn't be anything I could. Yeah, that
Exactly.
was
You can't run or hide or climb high enough, right?
no, no, no. You have no defense whatsoever. And it was really neat though, because we were right on the edge of Botswana, and Botswana had opened elephant hunting for the first time in, I don't know, 100 years. But people went into the bush to hunt elephants, and all the elephants crossed over into where we were. So we saw elephants every single day, like groups of them, 6, 7, 8, 10 elephants a day would come into our camp. And so you were very on alert when somebody spotted an elephant. You kind of backed off, stayed behind a couple trees, made no aggressive moves. Just, just let them do their thing. That was the rule.
Were they just sizing you up, you think, and then they decided to move on?
Yeah, I think pretty much so. I was in their territory.
Mhm.
It was their environment, not mine. And I was an outsider. And so they wanted to see what we were about, if we were causing problems, any kind of aggressiveness. So once they size you up, they pretty much would just kind of move along when they were done with whatever they were.
The biggest one you saw was how big?
Oh, from there, it looked like it was as big as my house, man. I mean, they're huge. They are huge. Big difference from seeing them at the zoo to having one walk by you out in the wild, for sure. Yeah, biggest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Did they help you survive in any way, or just by leaving you, they helped you survive?
Well, you're gonna be surprised at this, but elephant dung is it's not very well processed, and it's grasses and barks and all that kind of stuff. And you can light it on fire, and it keeps the bugs off you. I'm not lying. And actually, it smells delightful. It's incredibly fragrant. It keeps the bugs off. We used it for pillows. We used it for places to sit. I used it when I was hunting to mask my smell. Yeah, that was the most useful thing ever that no one would ever imagine.
And my guess is there was a plentiful amount of that.
Oh, new quantities every single day, Mike. Yeah, there was no shortage of that.
Wow. But that's that's the type of research you have to do to legitimately try to survive 1 day or 40 days, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't know that, then you're putting yourself at a real deficit.
Yeah.
So yeah, the more you can learn, the better you're going to do.
Well, the other thing that jumped out at me in moving forward to Ecuador is you were talking about one night you were in your cover in your tent, or and you were digging the dirt and you saw a bunch of ants. And I believe
Yeah.
your line was, I'm not spending the night with ants. But then you also said, which I guess goes to research again, that ants used to want to start a fire because ants don't like ash.
Yeah, they
How
don't.
does how does one how does a normal person know that, Wes?
They got to watch the show, Mike.
But before the show, how do you know? Is your research that good?
It's a matter of looking up on Google and YouTube, and just I think there's just a general awareness, that you start having. You talk to other people throughout a lifetime of being camping and fishing and hunting and that kind of stuff. You just amass this knowledge of things that no one on earth would ever know except somebody who's out in those environments.
Yes. Survivalist Jeopardy, you'd be a star, wouldn't you?
Just got to phrase it in form of a question. I'm good.
Now, so let's go to Ecuador. You finished by yourself. We're going to get to that in a minute, how that ended. How did all that start?
Suzanne got hurt on day 4.
Okay.
Yeah, she slipped and she fell and she cracked her knee, and we knew it wasn't good. She was going to need some kind of medical attention, surgery. Her staying there was going to be a detriment to her real health. And so she decided that it was time to pack it in on day 4 and go get some help. So that left me by myself for the duration of the challenge.
And you could have chosen to pack up and go home or stay by yourself?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You can go home at any time.
That's true. Yeah.
You can go home at any time, but that's not, as you already know, not my nature.
No, I believe in a couple of different stories I've read about you and clips I've seen is the word stubborn comes up a lot.
It does. It does.
Yeah. All right. So the going through Ecuador, and you have rain, you've got ants, and the normal, I guess the normal things you expect to see and how to survive. I think at one point in time, they said you were down to 100 calories a day. And they talked about the rating here. Hang on a sec. PSR. They said yours was at 8.6. What is PSR?
It's your primitive survival rating. It's kind of how you stack up against other survivalists. And, it measures your levels of success with things and your levels of failure and your experience, in the survival world. And so 8.6 is what I left with, which is it's a very respectable number. It puts me in the upper echelon of survivalists.
When you were in the tent, and I can call it a tent, right? It was a covering, but it was a tent,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And one of the nights you were there, I think we're going on to like night 13 or night 14. You said you were hearing sounds like car door sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When your brain is getting deprived of that much, calories, things don't make sense anymore. They just really don't make sense. I had a small river, large creek that was by me, and the rushing water at night just sounded like a freight train.
Mm.
I was hearing like low levels of music. I was seeing lights. It was and babies crying, doors slamming. My brain was inventing all these things that I was hearing, which was in no way real because there wasn't anything within, 50 miles of me. And so I was creating those kinds of noises in my head.
And I know this is really going to sound like a stupid question, but in context, I know it's difficult to sleep, but what was the most difficult thing that kept you from sleeping?
The bugs and the cold.
Yeah.
I mean, the bugs just eat you constantly, and so it's really hard to let them chew on you and still have a good night's sleep. It got down to it was at 51 one night, and that's cold when you're already wet and you're trying to cover up with a leaf. That's really cold.
And that's one of the things we don't take into consideration watching you do this is just being wet. It may not be raining in that moment where they're shooting this particular scene as you and Suzanne were going through a woods looking for an opening to find cover. I think it was the first night. We don't take into account that you're wet.
Yeah, you're wet. It was up in the Andrian Mountains, which is a cloud forest. And so if it wasn't raining on you, a cloud was coming by and you would be soaked the entire time. Whether you were in a shelter or not, it didn't matter. You were wet. And so that coupled with being in the low 50s, that's chilly. That's chilly.
And you're carrying the bag, one of the bags behind you. What's in the bag?
Generally, anything that you pick up that you want to use, I mean, during the day, there's a wireless microphone in there or a wireless set that goes to your microphone. And so you have to carry that around. But at night, they switch you out for a dummy bag that's got nothing. And so you can put, I don't know, trinkets in there. If you find something that you could use as a tool, you throw it in there. Just really anything. I use mine as a hat just to try to keep my head warm. Use it as a pillow. Use it for just about anything you can think of. You sit on it, cover up with it. It's utility.
And we see you and your partners on TV, and we get that it's just difficult. How many production people are following you at any given time?
On the 21-day challenges like Ecuador, there's no more than 4 people. It's a very scant crew. XL in South Africa, that may have had up to 12 people because they're covering so many different participants at the same time. But yeah, during the 21-day challenges, there's a maximum of 4 people, and most of the time it's just 2. Yeah.
And you get to know them pretty well?
Well, not during the challenge. I mean, they really try not to talk to you, and you can try to get some information from them, and they're not going to tell you. I mean, their job is not to interact with me. Their job is to just record what's happening. And so, you get to know them, but more after the challenge when you're all, on the bus to go to the airport, and in my case, I had a lot of time with them after the challenge because I'm sure what we're going to talk about. But yeah, I got to know them very well, but not during the challenge.
Yeah. And I would imagine they use a lot of the same people because they too have to be ready to live out in nothing.
Yeah, in Ecuador, since I'd already done 2 previous challenges, I knew 3 of the 4 people already. And so we already had a relationship formed. It was just, it was one that we couldn't have during the challenge. They would come into camp and they'll give me a little wave, because we know each other.
Yeah.
But, I don't ask them if they got any granola bars or anything like that.
There you go.
That's
Now, yeah. And the answer was yes, but no, you can't have one.
yeah, I got a granola bar. What's it to you?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So Ecuador was when COVID started.
Yes, sir.
So before we get to how and when you left, give us the timeline when you left for Ecuador. COVID was in the news, but not really in the U.S. yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It was in China, and we were hearing about it, and at that point we were probably chalking it up to one more thing that that China had. Over the past 20 years, we've had that at least 10 of them. We'd say, oh well, SARS virus or this or that in China, and so yeah, it was just something to talk about at that point.
Were there conversations that, hey, we'll keep an eye on this, or it's just like, hey, we're dropping you off, we'll see you in 21 days?
Yeah, that was it. There was no conversations about it. It just really wasn't on the scene at that point.
And I guess one of the tough things, there are a million tough things you go through. So I'm not going to try to rank them because I know they're all a pain in the ass, but just cut off from any information about anything.
Yeah, I mean, that is rough. I mean, mostly it's your family, right?
Yep.
I mean, you don't know who won the ball game, but that's okay. You don't really care. You're working on other things that are more important at the time. But yeah, you don't know anything. And the production they do, because they go back to their hotel at night.
Yep.
And they can catch up on all the good stuff. But when you're out there, you don't know anything at all about anything other than what you're doing at that moment.
So it was day 18. And do you know how many days have gone by when you're out there, especially by yourself?
You know how many minutes have gone by, Mike. Yeah, you are counting minutes every single day. Yeah, I knew exactly what day it was. Most people notch something to keep track of days. I do the same thing. I know exactly what day it is.
All right. So it was day 18. If the footage I saw was correct, day 18,
Correct.
where the production had to make the decision. Now they've been getting information days before, but it was day 18 that they had to come get you. And it was it was good that they came to get you, because they said, hey, if we're waiting longer, we may not be able to get out of the country. What I love that they did was one of the first things they told you was your family's okay. So I'm glad
Yeah.
they gave you that peace of mind. But Wes, it damn near brought a tear to my eye, the look on your face that you couldn't complete your mission of 21 days. I can't imagine what we didn't see.
Yeah, that was terrible. I'm a guy that likes to finish things. I got into running so I could finish a marathon, not so I could participate. A half Ironman so I could finish it. Everything that I do is always about crossing the finish line. And to have that yanked out from under me, I was miserable. For the last 18 days, that was the only thing on my mind, was finishing, getting to the end. And for it to be pulled out like that, it was a range of emotions. I was mad, and I was upset, and I was sad, and I was back to mad. Yeah, there was a lot of bleeping going on during that time. A lot of bleeping.
I just, yeah, because your first thought is I think it's one of the first things you said is, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly, because coronavirus. What the hell is that? That was that thing out in China, right?
Yeah.
And now it's crashing down on me that I have to not complete my challenge. Yeah, I was upset.
From the time that they came to get you and said, hey, we got to leave, how quick were you on an airplane?
It was days. It was days, because we were unaware they had shut down the airport. By the time we got to the airport that day, they had closed it.
Oh.
And so we were in Ecuador, in Quito, for about 5 days, trapped in the hotel, because there was just no flights in or out.
Then how did the flight become available?
I'm not quite sure. There's some details that I'm not privy to, but Discovery Channel sent a private jet
Okay.
and somehow got permission to land, somehow got permission for us to get on board, and then they got us out there as quickly as they could.
Wow. So they even came late. So they even came too late for you for commercial travel. So
Yeah.
if there's no Discovery jet, how long do you think you guys would have been there? Do you have any idea?
They said it was going to be 2 to 3 months, they thought.
Oh, geez.
That, you want to talk about a hard conversation with your wife, who really didn't want you to go in the first place?
Oh, yeah.
To say, I'm going to be here for another 2-3 months. Whoa. We were very fortunate, and I think part of it is Discovery's got a certain amount of liability on it.
Yeah.
And so whatever they spent to get us out of there was probably cheaper than the liability of keeping us there.
And how many people are we talking about that are stranded there?
Well, it's the 4 people in production and then me. So there was 5 of us, maybe 6.
All right.
And
And everybody's on the phone all day long trying to figure out scenarios, options, and all the details. It became fuzzier, like you said. So yeah. And so you get on the private jet in Quito and head where?
Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, we went from Quito to Miami. We stopped somewhere to fuel up, but eventually we got ourselves to Miami, and then was able to get on a domestic commercial flight to get back to Raleigh.
So at that time, when you landed in Miami, you were still good, and you didn't have to go through any, hey, I just came from a country, just came from Ecuador. And
yeah, no, they hadn't established all the rules quite yet.
Okay.
And so, we kept to ourselves, wore a mask, and they let us on the flight, no problem.
Are you sitting in the hotel, or do you get madder, or did you come to like, what, this is the hand I was dealt?
A combination of those, moment to moment. Sometimes I would get really mad and frustrated. And then at other times, to be honest, we were staying in a 4-star hotel. If it had been under different pretenses, that place was rocking. It was a very nice 4 days under different circumstances. But the 4 days
yeah. And they had the beer you wanted, right?
Oh yeah. They had and the sun was nice and hot. I got a good tan, after being cold for so many days. Yeah. If it was under different pretenses, it would have been a nice little vacation.
Well, there's got to be a payoff for a rough 18 days prior to that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All expenses paid. in
From
keto. Whew.
from the day, and we're going to get into some ailments here in a second. So from the day you found out you were going on the show for the first time
Uh,
until today, and we're talking what, 8+ years?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I
How
think
has
2007.
yep, how has your body changed?
Quite a bit, really. It responds very quickly to things now. Like if I decided I need to lose 10 pounds and I'll do some dieting, I can lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. But at the same time, if I need to put on 10 pounds, I can put on 10 pounds in probably 7 days. I mean, very easily. It's very odd, but I'm also extra sensitive to hot and cold.
Yeah.
When it's hot, it's really hot. When it's cold, it's really cold. And so those kinds of things, you're extra aware of maybe.
And mentally, I guess one of the questions is I was watching the Ecuador footage. You are by yourself from what, day 5 to day 18, or day 4 to day 18?
Yeah, that's
Day
correct.
11, day 12, you're not sleeping, you're eating 100 calories a day. How do you not lose it?
Oh, you lose it. Yeah, you absolutely do. But it's one of those things where you got to be really mentally tight. And if you feel yourself start to spiral, you have to stop immediately. You have to figure out a way to get back on top of the misery. So many people who do the challenge leave because of mental reasons.
Yeah.
They just can't take it, and they get themselves in a hole. And once you get in the hole, it's really hard to dig out. So I make a point to never let myself get down that low, where I can't fight my way back out.
You've got 5 kids. That you don't go on the show to get away from the 5 kids. Let me state publicly here that that's not the reason why. Okay.
Thank you
Uh,
very much.
what have you learned from being on the show to apply into the parenting role to help your kids process things that may have happened to them, be it in school or at home, physical, grade, mental, anything like that?
I've told them from a young age that when they worry about stuff or maybe getting little, minor amounts of trouble, this and that, I always tell them, is this going to be important to you in 5 years? In 5 years, are you going to look back and go, oh, wow, this was a real issue? Or is it something that just you're going with? And so that's been a good thing. That resonates with them really.
And do they, so the first time you're on the show, I'm thinking that your kids were like, my dad's going to be on this show. And now is it like, yeah, dad's gone again?
Yeah, that's really what it is. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a combination of them celebrating the fact that, my show is about to air. I'm going to be on TV. And then also, but dad's shown his bare butt on
Yeah.
TV
Yeah.
with their friends. They've kind of gotten over it now. I've been on 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 or 12 episodes.
I got you for 12. Yep.
So, that's, they're kind of over that. They understand that everybody in the free world has seen my butt.
Yep.
They're okay with it at this
Yep.
point.
Can you, and do you forget, or are you always reminded you have no clothes?
You always know that you have no clothes. Yeah, you always do, between the temperature swings and bugs biting you in places that you never thought you'd get bit before, and thorns and tree branches. Yeah. Oh, you know.
Okay. All right.
You know.
Can you confirm or deny there's conversations going on about another show?
Uh, yeah, I can confirm. There's always conversations going on about the
Good.
show. There's gonna, if you watch TV this spring, you'll find some stuff that I think you'll enjoy.
Outstanding. When will you know it's time to not go on another show again?
Oh, that's probably the best question so far. I wrestle with that all the time. And really, it's not great for my marriage for me to go on these shows. It causes angst. Molly doesn't want me to be gone for 40 days, 60 days, whatever it is. She wants me at home, and I understand that completely. It's my own selfishness, of wanting to do these challenges and get out there that drives me to keep doing it. So, I'm 51 now. So there's going to come a time in the not too distant future where I'm getting a little old to be playing these games. So there's a few more years left in me if they choose to have me, but at some point it's going to run out.
Is there a country you would love to do a show from?
Oh yeah, many, many, many. I would love to go to Australia.
Mm.
I would love to go to Alaska.
Ooh, they
Yeah,
would have
that
to
would
give you
be.
some clothes there, right?
Yeah, probably a bear skin or pelt of some kind. Yeah, I mean, those are a couple of destinations. Anywhere in China would be cool. There's many places in the world that I have not been to. And although, you want to go there as a tourist, not necessarily as a naked guy trying to survive, but you still get to go. And so,
When,
yeah.
when you're on a commercial flight, when you get back to the US and you're on a commercial flight back to Raleigh, has
Mhm.
anybody ever said, "Hey, so what are you doing? Where are you headed?" On the plane? Did you ever, do they ask, and do you want to tell them, "Hey, just take the show somewhere in place you don't ever want to be naked"?
You're not supposed to, but
Yep,
yes.
sure.
Yes, I met a couple of people when I was coming back from South Africa, and they kind of sized me up. They said, well, "This guy." I had a scraggly beard, and I was only 145 pounds. I'd lost 50 pounds, and I still try to carry myself with a little bit of an air of, "Hey, I'm somebody." And so they were like, "What's this guy's deal?" And so we had a little private conversation with what was going on. So yeah, it's really hard not to say something to somebody. You just had this amazing experience. It's hard to
When
just keep that inside.
when your challenge, any of the challenges are finished, you get back to the hotel, you get your, I know you wanted the beer after the first one, but you
Yeah.
get a shower, you finally get a good night's sleep, pair of shoes and some clothes. Are you walking funny for a week because your feet hurt or your back hurts or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, you really are. Your feet are not accustomed to being in shoes after not being in shoes so long. They're very uncomfortable. You've been sleeping on dirt and rocks and ground for days and days and days. And so, especially at 51, I'm working out the kinks for weeks. Yeah.
Now, why or why not would you recommend anybody watching this show today sign up to be on Naked and Afraid?
Because there is no way that somebody can watch 43 minutes of an episode and make the mental shift that that's actually 21 days. Even as a person who's done it 3 times, when I watch an episode, I still can't picture them surviving for 21 days. Every minute of misery, every single hour, every single day. It's just there's just no way to make that relate. If you go out in the woods and let yourself get beat up for 2 hours,
Mm.
that's 2 hours. That's twice as long as the show that you're about to watch. And it's minuscule, as opposed to the time you're actually surviving. So
If
yeah,
so,
it's not for everyone.
your recommendation for somebody being on the show, you would say if they are wired this way, they would love to be on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. You summed it up right there. If you're one of those crazy loons like I am that loves being miserable, sorry, that loves suffering, that feels like they're at their best when the situation's worst. If you're that person, sure, jump in. But if you're anything short of that, you won't make it. You won't enjoy it. You won't make it. You'll wish you'd never done
In the podcast I was listening to earlier this weekend, you had mentioned the mountains of paperwork you filled out
it.
with, and you had paperwork, you've got interview after interview. You said it took a year from the day you applied or Molly applied for you to the
Mhm.
day you left. Um, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Do you think there was one thing or maybe two things about you that the show producers loved and thought, you know what, we want to see this guy on a show?
I think that I fell into the demographic older sect who was a little more collected. I think the fact that I own an IT company, but somehow I'm a survivalist as well. I think that that was going to make an interesting dynamic for them, as well as the fact that I had done all these endurance sports. I was an endurance athlete doing half marathons, half Ironman, and so So I knew how to finish something. I was always looking for a challenge. So between all those, I think they said, all right, let's give this guy a shot. And also, a lot of luck. I turned in my application like the day they were looking for a guy like me. So really a lot of luck on the first one.
Yep. All right. So 2 bits of educational points Wes can provide for those of us who are watching the show today. One is IT security. Please, please, please get it set up. Reach out to Wes. We've been putting his phone number on there. What's the website, Wes?
It's lightwireinc.com.
Got it. Okay. Go check that out because it's legit and it's only going to get worse, folks. These hackers, you think they're good today. Geez, wait till dinner time, much less March of 2024. So don't mess with that. And Survivalist, if you really, really want to be on the show, then do what Wes did. Just go for it, right?
100%. 100%. I was fortunate that I had Molly give me the push because I'm not sure I would have done it on my own. But yeah, if it's something you want, go for it. Just like everything else in life, you got to reach out there and grab it.
Well, good. And Wes, it's only fitting you're on episode number 150. Love having you back. We'll have you back again when whatever news comes out in the spring that we may or may not enjoy watching. So we'll talk about that again. I love the fact, one of the things I love about this show is people do things that I've never done or won't do. I love different. And just the fact that you choose to do this is what I love hearing about. But the joy on your face when you talk about it is really what makes it worthwhile, because I can see the pride you have in accomplishing those missions.
That's true. I really do. I enjoy getting out there and testing myself and then overcoming whatever the obstacle is. That's very rewarding.
Good. Well, enjoyed having you on the show. If you'll hang on for a minute, go again, folks, go to lightwireinc.com. Get your stuff protected because you're going to thank Wes. You're going to thank me one day that you did that. So please go do that.
Better to see me before than after.
That is correct. Sure. So, and we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.